Another thing about this, Ron tells Harry, hey, Dumbledore said we would all be safe. You didn't think they would actually ever let any harm come to us, did you? Yes, they let harm befall children at the school all of the time. Hi, welcome to Gracie Talks. We are going to be discussing the legal ramifications of the Triwizard Tournament today. I know I told you that my next video was going to be the second installment of the Mortal Instruments. That is still going to be coming out at the end of May. Initially, I was thinking about doing one video every month, but then I decided that I wanted to do more than that. So the second TMI video was always going to come out at the end of May. It still will, and I'm just going to put this here in addition to that. So this came from the fact that I was looking at what are the chances of surviving in these different worlds. I did the Hunger Games for the last video. Immediately, I wanted to do the Triwizard Tournament. I wanted everybody who had won the tournament, I wanted to look at all of the stats. There's no data. There's a lot of lore, but there's no data set like there was with the Hunger Games. But then I started thinking about it, and I still have a lot of other questions when it comes to this tournament. I saw a TikTok, and it was a group of real lawyers sort of debating who would be liable in the event of the death that ends up occurring. And it really got me thinking, so I thought, let's break it down today. So here's how we're gonna break this down. We're gonna briefly go over the history of the tournament, and then we are going to go through the specific tournament that took place in 1994 and 1995. As we go through that one, we will address the certain legal quandaries that they bring up. I will attempt to answer some of them, but some of them I would posit there is no answer. And that's part of the fun. History of the Triwizard Tournament. The Triwizard Tournament is a tournament that has been happening for over 700 years between the BEAUXBATONS, the DURMSTRANGs, and Hogwarts. Before the 1994 game occurred, the last one occurred in 1792. They actually stopped doing it because of the injuries and accidents that were taking place. It used to happen every 5 years pretty much until it took that pause in 1792, and there are 125 known tournaments. There possibly could be more. It was really hard to find out information about this. The one thing that we do know is of those 125 tournaments, Hogwarts has 63 wins and the BEAUXBATONS have 62 wins. I guess get wrecked Durmstrang. That's interesting off the bat because the BEAUXBATONS is the all-female school. Go women. Hogwarts is obviously the male-female school. Durmstrang in the books is actually a male-female school. In the movies, they made it an all-male school, probably just to stay on theme with the BEAUXBATONS being an all-female school. It's weird to me that Durmstrang has never won because in the book, Durmstrang is described as being a very militant school and very hardcore. They're known for really pushing it with how much they teach their students about the dark arts, and yet they can't win. J.K. Rowling said that both of the schools are supposed to be bigger than Hogwarts, and I believe they're supposed to be the 3 biggest schools. We're gonna get into the 1994 game now. As we go along talking about some of these legal issues, one assumption that I'm making, I talk a lot about the governing law, the governing body. Who are people answering to in the scenario? Who ultimately is setting the laws that people are supposed to be following? And are they enforcing those? One assumption that I make with this is that the Wizarding World law would supersede the Muggle World law. I don't think anybody is taking Hogwarts to a court of law in the UK. So a lot of these questions that we go through and try to figure out, we're trying to figure out how the Wizarding World law would handle it. I am not a lawyer. I just break things down that nobody cares about for fun in my free time. Let's do it. The 1994 tournament. Keep in mind the last time this tournament was held was 1792. Now it is 1994. We are kicking it back up again. Each school, BEAUXBATON, Durmstrang, Hogwarts, is going to have one champion that will compete. They compete for eternal glory. As far as I could see, there is no prize. I'm going to put the spoiler warning right here as well. We are going to be discussing Harry Potter Goblet of Fire, the 4th book in the Harry Potter series. Everything that we discuss is basically going to be from the book. There are some other supplementary links. I'll link them down below. Spoilers for everything in that book. The champion from BEAUXBATON is Fleur Delacour. The champion from Durmstrang is Victor Crumb. The champion from Hogwarts is Cedric Diggory. Except hold on, because the names of 2 Hogwarts students come out of the cup. Harry Potter's name comes out as well. Let's get into my first liability question. You have to be 17 in order to be a champion, to compete. 17 is the age of maturity in the Wizarding world. That means that at 17, all of these champions would be able to sign some sort of piece of paper and say, I understand that Hogwarts is not liable. Standard boilerplate, you're not liable sort of signature. However, they are still at a boarding school. They are still in care of the school, so their parents would have to sign something. We accept all liability, they could die, harm could befall them. You're good, we're never gonna sue anybody. On first glance, I buy that. But then Harry gets involved. And how old is Harry? 14. Harry is 14. Couple of issues with this one. Before we get to the age thing, let's address the fact that Harry's parents live in the Muggle world. So in terms of parents signing stuff saying, yes, I understand the Triwizard Tournament, harm could befall my child, death could befall them, we're not gonna sue anybody. In terms of the Wizarding parents signing that, understanding it, I buy it. The tournament's a big deal. If the parents are Muggles and live in the Muggle world, they would be aware of the Wizarding world if their child was at Hogwarts. We know this. The Muggles that have kids that go to Hogwarts are informed of the fact that there is a Wizarding world and of the fact that their kids are magical. However, it also seems like the amount that the parents know about the Wizarding world, and specifically the happenings at Hogwarts, really has to do with the child. Hermione seemed to involve her parents with a lot. However, there are other lines of dialogue, like another student at one point says, my parents don't don't know anything about the deaths going on at Hogwarts, and I'm not stupid enough to tell them. I assumed Hogwarts would have to notify the parents, muggle or not, of all of the deaths that have been happening for the past 3 years before we even get to the tournament. Apparently that's not happening. That seems like an issue. The school should be notifying those parents. Zooming out, going back to Harry is 14, who's liable for that, I assume Harry would still sign something to compete in the tournament and say, hey, I'm not going to sue you guys. He's not calling his muggle family that he hates and doesn't have good relationships with. They're not signing paperwork for him to compete. I don't believe that at all. And we know that nobody else has become his legal guardian in terms of the school staff. No one else has taken on legal guardianship to be able to sign papers for him. So that's absolutely a liability that was not tied up by the school. Keeping in line with that, all of the children from all of the schools should be signing a piece of paper, even just spectating this. Once we get to the first task, you'll see what I'm talking about, but there are dragons breathing fire. One escapes at one point. That's a huge liability for all of the spectators. This is really where that issue comes from of what if the parents are muggle, because the Wizarding World parents are signing it, kids are signing it, sure, I believe that. The muggle parents signing it, if they do sign it, you cannot tell me that they understand the true dangers of what they are signing up for to let their kid do that. So even if Hogwarts did send a form to the parents and they sign off, there is this little thing called informed consent that the parents signing would not have if they were not made aware of the dangers, which I don't believe that they are. Surely that is not legally binding if you don't even understand how risky it is. I think in this situation, if harm did befall their children, the Ministry of Magic would probably just obliviate their memories and then move on, which, while that may be legal in the Wizarding World, it's certainly not nice. When we talk about the Muggle World law and then the Wizarding World law, the Ministry of Magic is going to be that governing body for the Wizarding World. So that's really who we're dealing with a lot of these qualms. And to show you the rock stars that we're dealing with at the Ministry of Magic, when Harry's name comes out of the cup saying that he's going to be a champion, Barty Crouch is there with Dumbledore. And Barty Crouch is saying that the rules are absolute. Because Harry's name came out of the cup, he has no choice, he must compete. He has no choice maybe with the rules of the tournament, but that doesn't mean, legally speaking, he doesn't have a choice. He didn't want to compete anyway. That's not legal. Lastly, in terms of liability, Beauxbaton, the entity, and Durmstrang, the entity, they have to have paperwork with Hogwarts saying, hey, we're not going to hold you liable for anything that happens. Back to that standard boilerplate one, I believe that that's enforced. We are moving on to task 1 now. Task 1, for the group of 17-year-olds who have all signed liability away. Got it, understood, we're good with that. And then also the 14-year-old who doesn't want to be there and is being forced to compete against his will, who has not signed away liability. They're going to fight a dragon. Task 1 takes place November 24th, 1994. Remember, we have Harry and Cedric from Hogwarts, we have Victor from Durmstrang, and we have Fleur from Beauxbaton. They are each going to have to try to steal a golden egg from a dragon who is guarding it. Let's get into this one off the bat. Animal cruelty. They take nesting mother dragons, drug them, and then hold them in the forest until it's time for the tournament, and then place the golden egg with their eggs so that the dragon is guarding it, and then it's up to each champion to try to get the golden egg. The golden egg has been placed there by the tournament. It holds the hint for the next task. It's not actually one of the dragon's eggs, but the dragon doesn't know that the dragon is defending its eggs. This is horrible. Before I get into my specific qualms with this, the governing body for this would, I believe, be the department that is within the Ministry of Magic. There's a department for the regulation and control of magical creatures, which would involve magical beasts, beings, and spirits. I assume dragons would be magical beasts. We will get to the mer people later in this video. They actually also are classified as beasts, although they are sentient and can communicate with humans. They should have been magical beings. I'll get into that in a second. The dragons actually would accurately be in that beast category. So I'm trying to relate it to something that would happen in the real world, like maybe going to a rodeo. I've never been to a rodeo. They would transport the animals to get there. I'm sure if I looked it up, it's probably not super nice. Maybe it's not awful. Maybe it's not a Shamu situation, but I'm sure it's not a hoot and a half. And now they're being forced to participate in this rodeo, and people are doing things like lassoing them or the waving the flag for the bulls. I don't know. But that's the only thing that I can sort of equate it to in my mind, which is why it's so upsetting what happens. Fleur goes up against a Welsh green dragon and she enchants it into sleep, and then it belches in its sleep and accidentally burns her a little bit, but she's ultimately fine. Cedric goes up against a Swedish short snout. He also gets burned while trying to get the egg, but he does get the egg. Harry uses a broom and does a whole bunch of in-air parkour, and then he gets the egg. He did get injured, but he still got the egg. So everyone's gotten injured so far, but they did get the egg. Victor blinds the dragon to get the egg. So in this rodeo example, the thing that I'm tying it to, I go, okay, we're pulling the dragons in, they're just animals, whatever. Not my opinion, but I'm saying if that was the intention. You wouldn't go to a rodeo and blind the bull. I should have looked up what happens at a rodeo. Whatever, you wouldn't blind the animals, okay? I don't think you would do that. You wouldn't just straight up blind it. People would have a problem with that. So hello, animal cruelty, where are we? Where is the governing body from the Ministry of Magic when it comes to the animals being harmed in this task? In the movie, the dragons are chained to the rock. That's not okay. And then it escapes. Who pays for the damages to the school when the dragon escapes and is smashing up all of the castle? I'm assuming Hogwarts has insurance. I'm also going to be okay with that one. Victor was the only champion that didn't get injured because he blinded an innocent and vibrant magical creature. But he did lose points because when he blinded said beautiful, vibrant, magical creature, she ended up smashing some of her own eggs while she was moving around trying to figure out what was happening. So because some of the eggs were damaged, he got points taken off for that. So he ends up tied with Harry for first place. Cedric gets second and Fleur gets third. Why? My third issue that I'm looking at here, was Fleur the victim of sexism? It doesn't make sense to me that she would be last place in this. I don't know if the book explains it. So all three of them get injured. If it was a timing thing, I guess I understand. Whoever does it the fastest, maybe that was it. Whoever does it the fastest ends up with the highest score. So maybe Fleur was the slowest to do it, so she ends up in last place. If she had been able to do it without getting injured, without getting that burn, then maybe she would have been higher ranked. But as it stands, all of them got injured, and then Victor injured the eggs. So they sort of all ended up in an even playing field, and maybe it was the time. But I am watching for that. I would like to see the judges' scorecards. This is just a side note. I'm confused why BEAUXBATON and DURMSTRANG is okay with there being 2 champions from Hogwarts, because it is going to stack the odds in terms of there being a Hogwarts champion. Hogwarts now has double the chance that the other schools have. DURMSTRANG should be fighting for its life right now. BEAUXBATON has those wins, maybe they're not concerned. That seems unfair. Not a legal perspective, more of just a political issue. I'm not going to talk about Rita Skeeter, but she did make it onto my list of problems that I had with this, because why isn't she in jail? If she licks her lips while looking at an underage boy one more time, I'm gonna lose it. The golden egg that all of the champions now have had a hint inside. It said, I'm gonna read it. It says, "Come seek us where our voices sound. We cannot sing above the ground. And while you're searching, ponder this. We've taken what you'll sorely miss. An hour long you'll have to look and recover what we took, but past an hour, the prospect's black. Too late, it's gone, it won't come back." So they took something, did they? The second task takes place on February 24, 1995. The champions arrive. In the book, they are told that they have 1 hour to retrieve something that was stolen from them from the Merpeople Village. The Merpeople Village is in the Black Lake. There's an object of theirs that has been stolen and is at the bottom of the lake. They need to retrieve it. They have 1 hour to do so. The line of dialogue that Albus says in the movie, it says, "Last night something was stolen from the champions, a treasure of sorts. This treasure is now at the bottom of the Black Lake." He explains that they have 1 hour to do so. If they do not return to the surface with the treasure within an hour, they're on their own. No magic can save them. What does that mean? Because surely we are not killing children out here. I think he's just saying that nobody's gonna interfere. If you're down there past an hour, that's it, you're on your own, you gotta find your own way up. That can't be true. Nobody would sign off on that. The legal team at Hogwarts, no way they're signing off on that. And like, why did Dumbledore always go so much harder than he had to? In order to be underwater in the Black Lake for that long, Harry uses gillyweed, which gives him gills, the ability to breathe underwater, and also webbed feet and hands for faster swimming. It was actually pretty cool in the movie. Fleur and Cedric both use a bubblehead charm, which is basically a breathing apparatus just around the nose and mouth so they can breathe underwater. Boring, but gets the job done. Victor partially transforms into a shark, so he has a shark head so he can breathe underwater, and he's swimming around. This was so sick. Now we get to the things that are lost. Harry gets there first, and he sees 2 of his best friends, the girl that he has a crush on, and then a girl that looks no older than 8 years old. They are not conscious. They are tied up at the bottom of this lake in the Merpeople Village. This was another immediate flag for me. Did the hostages consent? Did the hostages sign paperwork? If the hostages are harmed, who's to blame for that? I'll get to that in a second. In terms of Harry arriving and seeing his 2 best friends, the girl that he has a crush on, how would he know which one was taken for him? As a reader, when I was first reading it, I sort of put together Hermione must be there for Victor. They kind of had like a thing going on. Cho is there with Cedric. Cho is dating Cedric. Harry has eyes for Cho. It's very complicated. And then the little girl we assume has a relation to Fleur, it ends up being her younger sister. So as the reader, I figured that he was there to get Ron. Harry wasn't good at the interpersonal stuff. He really wasn't. So I don't think that he would have known which one to get. And that's sort of what ends up happening. He tries to take multiple ones. The Merpeople, remember that the Merpeople are involved in this. They're guarding the hostages. The Merpeople stop him from taking someone. This is where my other legal quandary came up. Who governs the Merpeople? If the Merpeople were to attack Harry or any of the other champions, who's holding them accountable? And also vice versa. If any of the champions were to injure Merpeople in their pursuit of saving the hostages to get them back above water, are they going to be punished at all, or is it going to be like the dragon situation? Because this is where it matters what the Merpeople are classified as. They were given the option to be magical beings because they are these sentient living beings. They refused that. They said, we'll be magical beasts instead because we don't want to be in the same category that hags and vampires are in. Rude. So they technically are magical beasts. We already know that the dragons do not have rights. So if any harm was to befall the Merpeople, or they were to be mistreated at all, what legal grounds do they have for justice? Okay, where are the merpeople advocates? Merpeople are people. Come on, equality. Fleur ends up having to quit because she is attacked by a swarm of Grindylows. They pull her out of the water. So this is where it goes back to the fact that they're not just going to leave you down there. Dumbledore's talking big, saying if you're under there more than an hour, you're on your own. No one's going to help you. That's not true. Granted, Fleur tapped out within the 60-minute span. You can't tell me that they wouldn't have come for the rest of them past that time. Back to this magical creatures thing. Who's holding the Grindylows accountable for attacking a human? Or was Fleur sabotaged as the victim of sexism? I'm going to keep looking for this. Checking back in on the hostages. Harry's trying to save multiple. Merpeople say no. He does not fight them. He's a good boy. Cedric comes, saves Cho, takes off. Victor comes, saves Hermione, takes off. Fleur is out of the tournament now. There is no one to save her sister. Harry ends up taking Ron and Gabrielle, Fleur's sister, and he takes them to the surface. He lost time trying to figure out how to save all of them, and in that time, Cedric and Victor already resurfaced. Fleur is out of the running. So technically, Cedric would be first, Victor would be second, Harry would be third, and then Fleur would be last place for not finishing. However, Harry ends up getting second place for having moral fiber for trying to save multiple hostages because he did technically reach them first. He could have gotten up first, but he was trying to save people. And it's why Harry's baby girl. When Harry, Ron, and Gabrielle get back up to the surface, Ron ends up telling Harry that the hostages were never actually in any danger. We find out that Dumbledore had informed all of them what was going to happen. We're led to believe that they consented to it. He tells them they're going to be asleep and then they're going to wake up when they're out of the lake. I buy that these kids consented to it, to be a part of the tournament. Did their parents? Hermione's parents specifically, remember they're Muggle-born, she is keeping them up to date, but there's no way that she would tell them what the dangers are if she really wanted to be involved in this. Also, what was the timeline? Were the parents given time to adequately review everything? Another thing about this, Ron tells Harry, hey, Dumbledore said we would all be safe. You didn't think they would actually ever let any harm come to us, did you? Yes, they let harm befall children at the school all of the time. And it's laughable to say that nothing's going to harm you in the lake. We know there are dangerous things in the lake. We know something's going to harm you in the lake. Fleur got attacked by a bunch of Grindylows. You can't say you're going to be underwater, but don't worry, you're going to be perfectly safe the whole time. You can't tell me that. The lake is dangerous. The overall rankings, we now have Harry and Cedric at the top, and then Victor, and then Fleur. Who sabotaged her with the Grindylows? I'm not playing around. The third task takes place on June 24, 1995. The champions have to navigate a labyrinth on the Quidditch pitch and touch the Triwizard Cup first. Because Harry and Cedric have the lead, they get to start first, followed by Victor in second, and then finally Fleur in last place, and the rich get richer. Skipping over a lot of this, they're all getting attacked by random creatures. But Barty Crouch Jr., who I have not mentioned because this is mainly about the legal ramifications of the tournament, he was clowning left, right, and center during this book. He was trying to get Harry to touch the cup first so that Harry would come face to face with Voldemort and then ultimately lead to his rebirth. I'm not going to get into that. He's been operating in the background the whole time. He wants Harry to win. He's trying to deliver Harry to Voldemort. Barty Crouch Jr. is separate from Barty Crouch Sr. that I referenced earlier in the video. So because Barty Crouch Jr. is trying to do this, he stuns Fleur in the maze, so she's knocked out. Sabotage! And then he controls Victor and gets Victor to do a Cruciatus curse on Cedric so that all three of them are sort of knocked out, clears the path for Harry to get to the cup first. Harry ends up hearing Cedric getting tortured, goes to save Cedric, stuns Victor. So now Harry and Cedric are both awake and able. Okay, now the two of us are in a race to touch the cup first. Harry reaches a Sphinx in the book, and his options are to either refuse to answer the riddle, and he has to find a different path. He doesn't know if that path is going to lead to the center of the maze, which is where he's trying to get to, but he cannot go this way. Or you can choose to answer the riddle, and if you're correct, you can go through. If you're wrong, you either die or at the very least you're eliminated from the competition. 14-year-old Harry, who should not be in this situation and cannot consent to anything given that his brain is still cooking, says I'm going to answer the riddle. He does answer it correctly because he's the chosen one. He's able to go on, whatever. He and Cedric end up at the cup at the exact same time. I love Harry, by the way. They agree to touch it at the same time. It's still a win for Hogwarts if we win together. Let's bring it home together. They touch it. It's a port key. They end up in front of Voldemort. Cedric ends up dying. That's not what we're here to discuss. Who is liable for what just happened? Fleur gets stunned. That's not okay. Barty Crouch Jr. would be liable. He would have to answer to that at the Ministry of Magic. Same thing with Victor. He used the Imperiatus curse to control Victor. He gets Victor to use Cruciatus on Cedric. Barty Crouch Jr. is responsible for that. That's his bad. I have seen people talking about how it matters who actually won the Triwizard Tournament and the fact that it was Harry and Cedric. I'm not here to get in anybody's way of enjoying their content. So live whatever your truth is with this. I don't think Harry or Cedric won because of the amount of cheating that was taking place. Barty Crouch Jr. literally knocked everyone out so that Harry could go and try to make it to the cup. Cedric still ended up there, so maybe Cedric still deserves the victory. But even with that, no, because Fleur just got knocked out cold, and then same thing with Victor. Well, Harry took him out, but Victor was being mind controlled, so he didn't even really have a shot. So it's all cheating. I don't think you really can say that there was a winner, and we're kind of all losers because of the dragon incident. So picking back up on that Fleur thread, it is my belief that Barty Crouch Jr. was sabotaging her the entire time. So if we just get to pick a winner, then mine was Fleur. I think I say this in every video at this point, but I make fun of these characters, but in a loving way. We do it with love. Love this series very much. Overall thoughts on this. Do I think that I would survive the Triwizard Tournament? No. Do I think that anybody would survive the Triwizard Tournament? No. Legally, do I think that the Triwizard Tournament could take place in this world? I do, but only if the schools involved and the ministry and everybody found a way to say, we are going to do what we can to make sure that no harm comes to the children. Obviously, accidents happen. That's where you get the standard boilerplate. I understand that Hogwarts is not responsible for any harm that comes to my child. For any Muggle parents that are signing the form that don't actually understand it, their children should not be allowed to participate, either as a spectator or as a champion. We're not bringing in any task or obstacle that could reasonably be expected to harm people that are present. You can make it about magic, you can make it about tasks, but yes, I do think that this could happen actually in a way where it legally complies with rules that keep children safe. Doing research on this, I was actually happy to find some of the information on who's governing the magical beings, creatures, and beasts, but I do feel like I should have heard more from the dragon advocates in this world. The hostages, it was good to find out that they were not actually kidnapped. They did technically give consent. They're children, how it's taken advantage of, exploited. But at least they weren't actually kidnapped against their will. And then arrest Rita Skeeter. Those are my thoughts. So what was the point of this video? At the end of the 1994-1995 tournament, they end it forever. Because of the death, they say, hey, listen, we took 200 years off, we tried again, it's just not gonna work, it's too dangerous. I guess I say bring it back. Safer. Bring it back this way with rights for animals and children. If you're here, thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourselves. I will see you soon. I will be posting that second TMI video at the end of May. #JusticeForDragons. #more people are people.